In this video, we are going to learn the concept of splitting and how we can implement this concept in ProModel. What is the splitting concept? Okay, so let's look at this example. It gives you a good sense what do we mean by splitting. In this example, we are going to model the cafeteria in a high school. In this cafeteria, we receive meal cases at receiving dock. These meal cases, then they are sent to refrigerator. At refrigerator, we open each meal case into 10 milk carton. That's what we have here. At refrigerator, we open each meal case into 10 milk carton. And then for the rest of the process, these are the milk cartons that are going through the rest of the process. The milk cartons then go to the cafeteria to be served to the students. On the other hand, in the lunch line, we have our students who come to the system and they wait in the lunch line. When it's in their turn, the students go to the cafeteria, they pick a milk carton, and then they leave the system together. So what happens in the refrigerator in terms of opening a milk case into 10 milk carton is what do we call as a splitting. When one specific entity comes to a location, and then we can split it into multiple other entities. That's what's happening basically in the refrigerator, and that's what do we mean by the concept of splitting. So here in this model, we want to see how we can implement such scenarios in ProModel. Okay, so in this model, for the receiving dock and refrigerator and the lunch line, we have capacity of infinity. For the cafeteria, we have capacity of 1. The splitting operation where we split each or open each milk case into 10 milk carton takes about 6 minutes, uniformly distributed with half with 1. The process of each student picking a milk carton and leaving the system, which happens in cafeteria, takes about 9 seconds, uniformly distributed with the half width of 3. Okay, and the milk cases come to the system with the inter-arrival time of 1 minute exponentially distributed. The students come to the system with the inter-arrival time of 2.5 seconds. Okay, and overall in this system, we receive 10 milk cases. So we receive only 10 milk cases. They come to the system one by one. And this is what we have for their inter-arrival time, 1 minute exponentially distributed. However, we get total 10 milk cases per day. And in each day, we are supposed to provide service to 100 students. Okay, so we have to provide service to 100 students each day, and we get 10 milk cases each day. And we are going to simulate this cafeteria for 1 day. Okay. So what I want you guys is to please create a new model in the folder for week 5. Name this model as high school cafeteria splitting, splitting. And in this model, we are going to have the receiving dock with capacity of infinity, refrigerator with capacity of infinity, lunch line with capacity of infinity, and cafeteria with capacity of 1. We obviously are going to have 3 different entities: milk case, milk carton, and students. And we are going to have 2 arrivals, one for the milk case that is coming from outside, and the other one for students also that is coming from outside. So 2 arrivals. A milk carton is created inside the system, so I don't need any arrival for the milk carton. It's not coming from outside, it's created inside the system. So my only 2 entities that are coming from outside and for which I need arrival are milk case and students. Okay? So please pause the video, create a model in the folder for week 5, name the model as high school cafeteria splitting, create the 4 locations, create the 3 entities, create the 2 arrivals, and then we do the processes together. Okay, here is my model. I have the receiving dock, refrigerator, cafeteria, and lunch line. Everything has capacity of infinity except cafeteria. And for the lunch line, I have considered it as a queue. And since it's the lunch line, obviously the rule of first in, first out holds. So I do have the first in, first out rule here as well. You don't have to have it as a queue. You can have it any location, any icon for this location. the only things you have to make sure that is the case for this launch line is that it has capacity of infinity, and the queuing rule is first in, first out. It can have any icon that you like. My entities are milk case, milk carton, and students, these three. And then I have two variables, as I said. Milk case goes to the receiving one at a time from the start of the simulation. And remember I said I'm going to receive only 10 milk case. Okay, so for the occurrence, I'm not going to put infinity, because if I put infinity, then that means that these milk cases will come to the system for as long as we run the simulation. However, I said we are going to receive 10 milk case each day, and we are going to simulate this system just for 1 day. So the number of milk cases that come to the system is 10, and the inter-arrival time is 1 minute exponentially distributed. For the students, they go to the launch line one at a time from the start of the simulation, and in each day we are supposed to provide service to only 100 students. So then if I put infinity here, that means for as long as I run the simulation, the students would come to the system, but that's not the case. I'm going to run this system only for 1 day, and in each day I only have 100 students to provide service to. And the inter-arrival time of these students, which come to the system one by one, is 2.5 seconds, exponentially distributed. Pay attention that here I put the unit of time. Why? Because the default unit of time in this system is minute. As you can go to the file, info, the default unit of time is minute. And here on the first line, I didn't put anything for the unit of time. That means the inter-arrival time of milk cases is 1 minute, exponentially distributed. However, if the inter-arrival time of the students is in seconds, then I have to specify the unit of time in seconds, SC. So the simulation does not consider it as minute. Okay, let's go to the processes. So in the processes, obviously milk case is the first entity that I'm dealing with. Milk case is already at receiving, and it goes to refrigerator. Okay, next, the milk case, which is already at refrigerator, is going to split into 10 milk cartons. So we are going to open each milk case into 10 milk cartons. So right there at refrigerator, when the milk case gets to the refrigerator, is when I need to write down the function for splitting. Okay, so the keyword or the command for the split is split 10, because we are going to split each milk case into 10 milk carton. Split 10 as milk carton. Okay, so again, the blue words are the keywords here. Split 10, that means split each milk case into 10 milk carton. Okay, so that's the name of the entity that is going to come out, milk carton. And how long this splitting operation is going to take? This is going to take about 6 minutes, uniformly distributed with half bit 1. And this is in minutes as well. So here I'm not going to put anything on the destination side. Pay attention to that. Nothing on the destination side. In this line, I already told the simulation that milk case is the entity that is at refrigerator. I'm going to split it open into 10 milk carton. So I already have specified the name of the entity that is coming out of this split operation. So I don't need to specify anything on the destination side, okay? Next, so what is the entity that is in my hand right now? It's milk carton, right? We split the milk case into 10 milk carton. So what I have right now is milk carton. And where am I? At refrigerator. And from there, milk carton is going to go to cafeteria. Okay. So now in cafeteria, that's where the students from launch line go to the cafeteria. They pick up a milk carton and then they leave the system. Okay. So now my question is that, what is happening in cafeteria? One student comes, one milk carton comes on the other side. The student picks up the milk carton and they leave the system together. Okay, so this should remind you of the concept of attachment. Why? Because the two entities that come together, they are different entities. A student and milk cartoon are the two entities that come together in cafeteria and then they leave the system together. So these are two different entities. So this is for sure attachment. And then is it temporary attachment or permanent attachment? It's permanent attachment because these two different entities come together and then they leave the system together. A student picks up a milk cartoon and they leave the system together. So this is permanent attachment, okay? So now that the milk cartoon is in cafeteria, milk cartoon went from refrigerator to cafeteria, to be able to do the join operation, I have to bring the students to the cafeteria as well, okay? So in the next line, I want to bring the students to the cafeteria. So students, where are they already? Students are already in the lunch line. Where do they go from there? They go from lunch line to cafeteria. Now, what happens in cafeteria? As if you remember when we talked about join or load, we said that we have to take two main actions when we want to implement join or load. The first thing is that we have to decide on which one of the entities that get to the cafeteria is a base entity, okay? Do you have two entities here? One is a student, one is the milk cartoon. You have to decide which one of them is going to be the base entity. And as I said, it doesn't matter, any one of them can be the base entity. Here we assume a student is going to be the base entity. The base entity is the entity that is going to initiate the join comment, okay? So a student which is already in cafeteria is going to initiate the join operation. So a student is going to join one milk carton. And this operation is going to take 9 seconds, uniformly distributed with half-width 3. I'm going to put the unit of time seconds next to it because this is in seconds. So if I do not specify the unit of time, simulation is going to consider this as minutes. So if it's in second, then I have to specify second as well. Okay. And now for the entity that is coming out, remember when we learned the join operation, when we put a monitor in an empty box, full box was the entity that came out. So we created a new entity, which was full box, to represent the entity that is coming out of a join. So we can do that here. We can have, for example, a student without milk and then goes to the cafeteria, gets the milk, and then a student with milk comes out. So we can create a new entity for this to represent what is coming out of this join operation. Or the other alternative is that I can just let the base entity to be the entity that is coming out. So I can just let the student or the base entity to be the entity that is coming out, and that entity is going to, that the student with milk is going to leave the system, okay? So when we have the join operation for the destination option, we have two possibility. One is that we create a new entity that is going to come out of the join operation. The other option is that we just let the base entity to be the entity that is going to come out, and that's fine as well. Remember, for the join to work, I have to also do one more thing. I have to go to the line where the other entity, so here the student is the base entity. I have to go to the line where the other entity gets to cafeteria. My other entity here is milk cartoon. I have to go to the line where milk cartoon gets to the cafeteria, and then I have to check if join requested. So I have to go to the line where my other entity, which is milk cartoon, gets to the cafeteria. That's this line when the milk cartoon goes from refrigerator to get to the cafeteria. And right here on the rule, I have to check if join requested, such that when the student starts the join operation here, then the milk cartoon already knows that it has to join the student. Whenever the join is requested, milk cartoon is going to join to that entity. Okay, so this will take care of the join operation that happens in milk cartoon and that happens in cafeteria when one student and one milk cartoon come together. Student picks up the milk cartoon and they leave the system together. Okay. I want you guys to pay attention to this part, that cafeteria where the join happens. When one student comes and one milk carton comes, I have kept the capacity as 1. Remember, when we perform the join and load operation, although at those locations different entities come, there is more than one entity in those locations, but we still keep their capacity as 1. So for any location in which we perform a load or a join, we do not need to increase the capacity. We can keep the capacity as 1. But for those locations where we perform a batching, that's where we need to increase the capacity. And also here, when we in the refrigerator, when we split each milk case into 10 milk carton, I cannot keep the capacity as 1 as well. So the capacity should be more than 1, because depending on how many milk a carton is going to come out of the case, we have to definitely have a capacity more than 1 for the refrigerator. Here I have the capacity of infinity, so there's no limit on how many entities can be processed on the refrigerator. Okay, so before we run the model, also let's add a move time. So there is 5-minute move times between receiving and refrigerator. When milk cases come to the system, there's 5 minutes move time before they get to the refrigerator. So in the first line, I add the move time, move for 5 minutes. So make sure to correct to write the code completely. Move for 5 minutes. I can put it or not, it doesn't matter. There's also another move time between refrigerator and the cafeteria. There is 10 seconds move time between refrigerator and cafeteria when the milk carton wants to go from refrigerator to cafeteria. I also have 10 seconds move time exponentially distributed. And so here I need to write move for 10 seconds exponentially distributed. E10, and then I also need to put the unit of time, which is seconds. Otherwise, the simulation would consider this as 10 minutes. So if the move time is in seconds, so make sure to write the SEC, the unit of time, next to it, so that simulation treats this time as seconds. Then we are ready to run the simulation. However, here's my question for you. Do I need to specify the simulation runtime here? As you know, every time we want to run the simulation, we always go to the simulation options window and we specify the simulation runtime. For how long do we want to run the simulation? My question is that, do I need to specify any runtime for this simulation model? The answer is no, because in the arrival, I have already told the simulation that I'm going to receive only 10 milk case and only 100 students. So as soon as I'm done with processing these 100 students and these 10 milk cases, then the simulation automatically stops and is not going to go any longer. So I don't need to specify any specific simulation runtime. All I need to do is to run the simulation, and the simulation automatically stops when we provide service to 100 students and we take care of this 10 milk case. Okay, as you can see here, 100 students have come to the system, they have received and they have left the system. 100 milk cartons have left the system, and then 10 milk cases, which basically we split open into milk cartons. And we have about 18.5 minutes for the waiting time of the students in the system. So if the time in the system is not similar to my number, make sure you guys have the move times here. So if you do not put the move times here, obviously the time in the system that you're going to get is going to be smaller. So if your time in the system is different than mine, make sure to double check the move times in your system. And obviously when I talk about difference, I don't mean just 1 or 2 units lower or higher. I mean, if it's like 1/3, for example, of the time that I got. So in this model, we learn how we are going to split each entity into multiple other entities.